I use on my RV, something that's great for your hunting cabin or the back porch, is the ProPure Traveler. Small and portable, but packs a huge punch, cleans out all that garbage. They also have a glass sight spigot, so you don't have to take the top off and look in the bottom area to see how much water. You can see how fast it's filtering with this optional system. The globalists obviously are hitting us through our water. It's time to take control of our lives. It's time to not give our children and families these poisons, and these systems cut it down to non-detectable levels across the board. ProPure is the name. I only promote what I believe in. And I use ProPure in my home and my office. And I recommend that you check out the information on ProPure at INFOWARS.com. We already have the lowest price at INFOWARS.com on the ProPure gravity filter system. But when you add in the 10% off when InfoWarriors use the product code WATER at InfoWars.com, nobody can top it. So again, it's a win-win-win. Stop drinking the poison water. Checkmate the globalists when it comes to your health, and support InfoWars.com and the work we're doing here. You know, many revolutionaries rob banks and things and kidnap people for funds. We promote in the free market the products we use that are about preparedness. That's how we fund this revolution against the New World Order in our move to restore our constitutional republic and a spirit of 1776 worldwide. Check it out at InfoWars.com. ProPure, top of the line, #1, most powerful and effective and economical gravity-fed water system in the world. ProPure, available, discounted at InfoWars.com. Don't forget product code WATER to save 10%. It's the latest generation, years in development. ProPure is the name. And we are back. Thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of InfoWars Nightly News. This next story is so huge, it blows my mind. We have confirmed, not just with the Marine in Virginia, Brandon Robb, who was picked up last week for Facebook posts by himself, his brother, and others, where they quoted some lyrics about sharpening an axe and said the Federal Reserve was private, and talked about my radio show. He's a listener. I've now talked to his lawyer and the family. He's coming on next week. He disappeared into the psychiatric facility, and the psychiatrist came to him and said, I'm going to brainwash you. I'm going to force drug you. You're crazy. The Federal Reserve basically is it private. Now we've confirmed all over the country, even radio talk show hosts that are veterans that say things like the hammer's coming down, we need to all buy guns to protect ourselves. They come, they involuntarily commit them, the police do, with the FBI, and tell them, we're not going to ever let you out of here until you sign an agreement that you're mentally ill and that you're going to go to classes and turn your guns in. So it's a way to extrajudicially strip veterans and basically turn them into what's psychological felons. Now, we have constitutional lawyer Stuart Rhodes, who's going to be one of the keynote speakers tomorrow at Paul Fest, where thousands have already gathered as it kicks off there at the RNC event in Tampa. They're having their own alternate event to try to get the Republicans to actually look at the Bill of Rights and Constitution and rediscover it. This is so huge because we're getting calls from all over the country and confirming, and we were already getting these, but now since this story went nationwide, one of the biggest stories in the country, Brandon Robb's story, we are now confirming. In the case of Homeland Security.us, the Northeast Intelligence Group, we interviewed them a few days ago with a radio talk show host who barely criticized things, didn't call for any violence. They grabbed him, stripped his Second Amendment. This is so scary. They say the veterans are the #1 terror threat. They say they're coming after them. They're training the National Guard that veterans are evil. So they're training them that they're going to be evil when they're out of the military. This is unprecedented because the globalists know it's the military that is going to stand in the way of a globalist takeover. And they want to be able to go after the military that follow their oath. So this shows us we're very late in the game here. We're winning the info war on many fronts, but the globalists have seized control of the federal government. They're moving forward. You had a state county judge, that's over the county commissioners in Lubbock, come out and say, I need more deputies to deal with the handover of our sovereignty and civil unrest to this New World Order takeover. Will he be put in a mental institution? Because they're on C-SPAN, they're on CNBC, they're in the newspaper saying, world government's here run by foreign banks. We've played those clips over and over again. So our military's been told it's under UN NATO command in Congress. Obama says we're part of a global government. You didn't build your own company. And then when we say we don't want to be under that, this is illegitimate, this is sedition by the executive, these are collaborators like Vichy French, they say, we're going to arrest you like the old Soviet Union. This is incredible. And here to talk about that and more, you know, we have the military coming out with new papers saying the Tea Party is the terrorist and is going to link up with Al-Qaeda. Stuart Rhodes is fighting back against that. The founder of Oath Keepers joins us to talk about all of this. But Stuart, I mean, am I wrong to say this is probably one of the biggest stories we've ever seen, that there is a dragnet? And with all of your military veteran sources, are you too getting the reports and confirmed reports that veterans are being scooped up by the thought police now here in America?
Well, I think that is happening, but I think the case of Brandon Robb in particular is special because it's the one where it was only focused on his free speech on Facebook. The government consistently said that the only reason they detained him for a psych eval was what he had posted on Facebook. So that is a bit different than guys going in for PTSD diagnosis, etc., and then being put into the system. This is the first one where they've reached out, where a guy is not in the VA hospital getting looked at on his own. They reached out and grabbed him because they didn't like his Facebook posting. That is crossing a huge line. And what this really is a direct parallel to what was done in the Soviet Union. In the Soviet Union, they would take you and haul you off to their little psych hospitals. I believe they were called Pashushkas, and psychiatric prisons. And that was just their way of circumventing their due process. And so the U.S. government now is, just as we've known for years, is following directly in the same path of Joseph Stalin. And they're beginning to, that's their playbook. And they've got the NDAA, that's military detention that circumvents the Bill of Rights. But now they got one extra way of doing it, and that's through the mental health system. And I knew this was coming back in 2010. Back in 2010, you'll remember, DHS has a working panel for countering violent extremism, and they've got Cohen, the CEO of Southern Poverty Law Center, sitting on it. And one of the recommendations out of that panel for DHS was to use the local social services, including mental health services, to combat, quote-unquote, violent extremism. And so this is exactly what SPLC wants to see happening. But the police in Virginia that have done this to this veteran Marine, are playing with fire. And if the federal government continues to go down this road, they're playing with fire. This is not Russia. But Americans aren't going to sit quietly and cower in fear while their brother veterans are being snapped up. If they do this you know, this begins to see a pattern in practice, this being done, they're going to fight back. And so they are playing with fire.
Well, maybe that's what they want. I mean, every indicator I see is they're preparing. You know, the National Guard magazine says, meet your enemy, it's you. The new white Al-Qaeda, we're being told, is everywhere. I knew this was going on 5, 6, 7 years ago behind the scenes. Now they're bringing it out in the open, and,
right.
and I think really trying to start a shooting war, trying to push us into it, because they know in the info war, we are absolutely accelerating right now towards light speed. They can see the trajectory of the power of the liberty movement and the information we have that's pure Americana, Constitution, what everybody's starving for in the face of this naked tyranny. And now they just admit, we're listening to you without warrants. Yeah, we got the TSA at checkpoints and political events in high schools. We're going to stick our hands down your wife's pants. We're going to make Miss USA cry. We're going to, you know, taser you for no reason. We're going to come in the schools and forcibly inoculate your kids in California without consent. I mean, just the level of crime. They're taking the gloves off because they don't care if a civil war starts and the cops and military get killed in it. In fact, they like that because that's going to chew things up and create the crisis they want, where they openly say in all these documents now they'll bring in mercenaries after we've worn each other out. The good news is I'm talking to police mainly, and they have never woken up bigger than this. Everything I told them 17 years ago, everything you've told them in the last decade, Ron Paul talked about, it's all coming true. And so I just see this as a collision course. I mean, where do you see this going if they start trying to do this? Because, yeah, like you said, veterans in the future when they come to take them away to a mental institution, they're just going to start resisting, and then the Civil War kicks off.
Well, I see it, as we've talked before, when we had that big, long talk about the NDAA. We're on a short track to having to fight a revolution, and I would prefer that we had more time, because given enough time, we will win, because we are winning the information war. You know, and hats off to you and others like you. You've been a big part of that. But while we would win with enough time, I feel like they understand that too, and so they're going to try to shut it down. They're going to either do an economic collapse, trigger an economic collapse, or some other pretext to clamp down on us, or, like you said, keep pushing at us until we fight back. So that might be part of their game plan. But it might be something we can't avoid. When they come for you, you must resist. You know, Solzhenitsyn was correct. You reach a certain point where you reach the Solzhenitsyn moment where you need to resist. And like he said, we did not love freedom enough. Well, there is a significant minority in this country, the liberty movement, that does love freedom enough, and they're going to fight back. I've talked to veterans across the country after the NDAA was passed, and they all said the same exact thing. They said when they take another brother veteran under the NDAA and the military detention, that's it. It's on. They're not going to wait for them to come for them. They're going to go active. They're going to go after the bad guys. And I think that this psychiatric detention is the same. What's the difference between this or calling you an enemy combatant? It's the same kind of thing. They label you as something that strips away your Bill of Rights protections, and it's going to get you. I think veterans will have the exact same reaction.
Sure, I had the head of the Rutherford Institute, a constitutional lawyer like yourself, on yesterday and today, and we've also talked to the Robb family now. When he's ready to talk, he's resting. He's going to come on next week, Brandon Robb. But talking to the head of the Rutherford Institute, you know, who helped go before the judge and get him out of there, because there's still a little bit of the Constitution left. But this is the case we knew about. There's so many others where they've just taken their guns and, you know, said they're mentally ill for no reason because of, I mean, I'm talking about talk show hosts, bro. We're confirming this is going on everywhere right now. My point is, the psychiatrist terrorized him, trying to get him to get angry, and would come in and say, we're going to brainwash you. We're going to force drug you, trying to get him to respond. And he was smart enough to keep cool. But, I mean, these are really creepy, evil people that the government has gotten in these facilities. And I was talking to the lawyer. He talked to a local newspaper reporter. He said in the last month in that county in Virginia, 20 people have been picked up, quite a few of them veterans, the same way. It was full of people. So they're doing this now. I mean, they're watching what you say and going, oh, you don't like the government, we're going to pick you up. And then you're in a room with some commissar creep who tries to terrorize you. I mean, you know, I guess we know their tactics now, but my God, these are evil people.
Well, we need to stand up hard. I talked to John Whitehead the other day on the phone, and props to him. It was really awesome that he stood up for Brandon. And I talked to him about this and said, look, this is like the camel's nose sliding under the tent. We got to stomp hard on it. And he said, well, actually, the whole camel's already inside the tent. We got to shove it back out. And so we're going to work with them as close as we possibly can. And it looks like this is just the beginning of this fight. And so we were going to do a mass rally this next weekend to demand that they either charge or release him, but now we kind of called that off because he's been released. But maybe we should just go ahead and do one anyway. Go there and protest against this pattern. So I'm going to have to find out more the details of what's going on there. But if it proves out that there's actually the same kind of thing happening to the veterans in Virginia, then we got to stomp on it. We got to stomp on it hard. Oh yeah, let me draw your attention to the article by Douglas J. Hagman, and I interviewed the talk show host. He's got a popular show. And he just said, quote, the hammer's coming down, it's time to buy more guns. He's on Blog Talk Radio, and they came and did the same thing to him. And that was in Pennsylvania, is that right? Yeah. Yeah.